Nothing exists except atoms and empty space. Everything else is opinion. Tiny, spherical, building blocks of matter. This is an atom, a vital discovery that paved way to countless innovations up to this very moment. But who do you think started it all?
Audio Jungle.
Hi, I'm JJ, and we're going to know who is Democritus.
Democritus was born in Abdera, a town in Thrace in northern Greece. His date of birth is 460 BC. His father was very wealthy and had even received the Persian king Xerxes on his march through Abdera.
On his father's death, Democritus spent his inheritance to travel expensive countries for him to satisfy his thirst for knowledge.
He is reputed to have traveled to Persia, Babylon, modern-day Iraq, Asia as far as India, Ethiopia, and Egypt, where he lived for 5 years, being particularly impressed by the Egyptian mathematicians. He also traveled throughout Greece to acquire knowledge of its culture and meet Greek philosophers like the physician Hippocrates and Socrates, and possibly also Anaxagoras, whom he praised his own works and his wealth, enabled him to purchase their writings. He also known as one of the most traveled scholars of his time. Democritus is often pictured as laughing. The Abderans believed he was mocking the stupidities of men, but none of the sayings about him or from him say anything about his contempt for other people. Instead, there is one clear message: a love of learning and understanding. Legend says that he even blinded himself so that he would not be distracted from the pursuit of knowledge and understanding. That is probably a little excessive, but it seems reasonable that he might have gone blind in old age. His greatest influence was certainly Leucippus, with whom he is credited as co-founding atomism. In around 440 BC, Leucippus has founded a school at Abdera, and Democritus became his star pupil.
There are no existing writings which can be positively attributed to Leucippus, and so it is virtually impossible to identify which ideas were unique to Democritus and which are Leucippus, or any views about which they disagreed. Just like any other philosophers, Democritus made countless works, theories, and discoveries. His most famous theory is known as atomism, that all things are made up of basic parts that cannot be broken down any further.
Modern science has confirmed his hypothesis, basically confirming that they are building blocks of all matter. The discovery of protons, neutrons, and electrons, however, has proven they aren't exactly indivisible though. Democritus' atoms were small, hard particles that were all made of the same material but were different shape and sizes. Democritus named the smallest piece of matter atomos, meaning not to be cut or indivisible.
Following Leucippus, Democritus also believed that the world could not be explained simply through the senses.
He called any knowledge like that bastard knowledge because it had not been filtered with reason. For example, most people would have seen the sun rise in the east and set in the west and then concluded that the sun was moving.
In his view, legitimate knowledge used all the senses, but then had to be elaborated on through reasoning. From the obvious, a person could come to understand the not so obvious in a process today used in science called inductive reasoning.
To take the sun observation a step further, Democritus noticed other things that didn't fall into that observation. A ship sailing away would eventually disappear, and that suggested that the earth was curved. Days grew longer and shorter with the season.
These observations made better sense if it wasn't that the sun was moving, but the earth. He was also a pioneer of mathematics and geometry and produced works entitled On Numbers, on Geometrics, on Tangencies, on Mapping, and on Irrationals, although these works have not survived.
He was among the first to observe that a cone or pyramid has one-third the volume of a cylinder or prism, respectively, with the same base and height.
In the atomist version, there are multiple unchanging materials principles which constantly rearranging themselves in order to affect what we see as changes. These principles are very small, indivisible, and indestructible building blocks known as atoms.
All of reality and all the objects in the universe are composed of different rearrangements of these eternal atoms and an infinite void, in which they form different combinations and shapes. There is no room in this theory for the concept of a God, and essentially atomism is a type of materialism or physicalism, as well as being atheistic and deterministic in its outlook. However, Democritus did allow for the existence of the human soul, which he saw as composed of a special kind of spherical atom in constant motion, and he explained the senses in a similar manner.
Happiness? Happiness resides not in the possessions and not in gold. Do you know? Happiness? It dwells in the soul. In the field of ethics, Democritus pursued a type of early hedonism or Epicureanism.
He was one of the earliest thinkers to explicit poised as supreme good or goal, which he called cheerfulness or well-being, and identified with the troubled enjoyment of life. He saw this as achievable through moderation in the pursuit of pleasure, through distinguishing useful pleasures from harmful ones, and through comforting to conventional morality.
Just like Democritus, ways to discover and create things are not easy. The way can be rough or rocky, but Democritus taught us to show your smile above all your problems. Without Democritus, atoms are not studied in schools, applied in life, and most importantly, there is no love in learning and understanding.
He is quoted as saying, "The brave man is he who overcomes not only his enemies, but his pleasures."
As quoted by Democritus, meaning we should think outside of the box or get out of our comfort zones. Activate each and everyone's imagination because the sky is the limit. Again, my name is JJ Balmaceda. Let us all be Democritus and peace out.